So it's been a quiet week in Hidden Hollow. The tomatoes are all starting to ripen, and the race between the chickens and the gardeners is on. The women come home from work in the evening and run out to the garden to try and pick, but every tomato has at least one hole in it. The chickens can't seem to bring themselves to eat a whole tomato before moving on to the next one. They have to ruin all of them. It's like they're playing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or tagging them. That one's mine, that one's mine, that one's mine. Anyway, the result is that all the BLTs being served this week in Hidden Hollow have tomatoes on them that look kind of like Pac-Man. At least they still taste good. Mr. Cherry Heart got to go to court this week. That was nice. Everyone knows how much he enjoys a good argument. It was especially fortuitous because Mrs. Cherryheart has lost her voice. It's no big deal. She just has a cold, and this was part of it, but with no voice, it's very hard to argue. And if Mr. Cherryheart can't argue, well, oh, who are we kidding? No one knows what would happen if Mr. Cherryheart couldn't argue. So, Junior Cherryheart, oh, he's been so busy lately. He works 5, sometimes 6 days a week, like 8 to 5, and he has a 3-month-old baby to take care of. So he informed his father that he did not have time to mow the grass. Mrs. Cherryheart was happy to go over and do it. The yard's pretty bumpy, and it takes about 4 hours, but it's no big deal, and it's fairly pleasant. This week, when she went to mow, she found that geese had moved into the pond and yard. Now, geese can be pretty to watch, especially if there's babies. It's fun to watch them fly, fun to watch them swim. But this was not a few geese. This was a flock of about 200, and they were everywhere. There was a thick layer of white downy feathers covering the ground. It looked kind of like snow. Well, Mrs. Cherryheart had mowed in the snow before. She'd also mowed large fields of dandelion fluff, which billows up and around like a storm when you mow through it. This is how she envisioned this would be. She lowered the deck, engaged the blades, and flew across the yard. It was everything that she had imagined, and more. Much more, in fact. She had done about one pass, turned to come back, and it began to rain. This was puzzling, because there was no clouds. As the large drops of warm rain pelted her legs and arms, she looked down and saw that it was brown. It was at this point in the proceeding that she understood something that should have been clear earlier. If 200 geese have been in this yard long enough to cover it with feathers, then they were bound to leave other things as well. Philosophically, she pulled her hat down, squinted her eyes, and turned her head away from the spray, and continued to mow, much slower now. As she did, it occurred to her that most people do not tar and feather themselves. Looking up through the brown and white clouds, she noticed a group of teenage girls doing a photo shoot in the middle of the road. They bent and stretched and laid down, jumped in the air. It's actually quite entertaining and took her mind off of the rain. They took about a half an hour with their photo shoot, and only one truck drove by. They looked at it with bewilderment and then took a picture of it too. When Mrs. Cherry Heart's mowing brought her close enough to the road that they could clearly see her, the girls gathered their cameras and departed in haste, giving startled glances back over their shoulders. The enclosed space of the truck on the way home made it even more clear to Mrs. Cherryheart just how desperately she needed a shower. But when she turned on the tap, only cold water came out. Again. This was just not her day. So the bees have been very busy out on the Castlewall farm. Mr. Castlewall likes to take his coffee and go down and sit, watch the bees as they go in and out of the hive. He says it's relaxing. I do understand how this could be relaxing. The slowness of the bees flying out, the ones coming in with pollen. But the thought of sitting and watching something work so hard and having it bring you peace brings to mind another person that we have all known and loved through the years, and how really the only time you ever saw him smile was when the entire family was covered with sweat from their latest endeavor he had directed. There's got to be a lesson in there somewhere. So it appears as though Hidden Hollow may have a prodigy. This is the Bright's youngest child, Tiny. She seems to be making great headway into the world of art. Painting, probably, although sculpture could add into it just a little bit. She's still in the experimental stage, but it looks as though she may have some Picasso influence in there. Just this week, she created a masterpiece from mashed potatoes and the contents of her diaper. It may sound disgusting, but art is art. It's not always pretty, and it's not always easy to understand. But when it's from the heart, you have to appreciate the beauty of it and the meaning of it. What it meant this time was that her mom and dad got into an argument and spent the evening scrubbing carpet. But deep down, she has the making of something truly special. Now I'll leave you with this. Just a small bit of news about the pouty, the precious, and the precocious. Beauty and Buddy Castlewall are the very best of friends. The mischief that Beauty devises really has no end. But every child has their ways. But Buddy is especially sweet. If he has a request, he begins with, "I love you," and not the usual, "Gimme." Beauty sticks her lip out, puts her hands upon her hips, while the winning smile on Buddy's face is harder to resist. After being told no one too many times, Beauty came up with a solution in her clever little mind. Now when she has a request, she does not pout or whine. She starts the request with "Buddy wants," and gets it every time. Well, that's the news from Hidden Hollow, where all the men are up early, all the women are up late, and all the children are insomniacs.